What makes us take our chosen path in life? There are the big events, births, marriages, deaths, circumstance, and personal interests. But interlinking all of these are a string of smaller day-to-day events that make up the shape and picture of our lives. And whilst most of these may seem to have little effect, occasionally one small event can set off a chain reaction that changes your life and sends it in a completely different direction. If someone had said to me 10 years ago that I was going to change careers and become an artist, a workshop provider, an art supply stockist, and a creative team leader, I would not have believed them. But one chance encounter with a stall holder at a craft fair changed everything. Amongst all of her beautiful art, she had a figure sculpture of a fairy torso, and the wings were made of lace. But when you touched them, they were rock hard. That was the day that I discovered taking recycled textiles and turning them into sculptural pieces for the home and garden. It was a revelation. Textile sculpture. I was hooked. I gave up my career as an engineer, which not only allowed more quality family time, but also enabled me to start making textile sculpture to sell at craft fairs. Before long, I had my first piece exhibited in an art gallery. Textile sculpture uses fabric dipped in a hardener and then draped over an armature to air dry. It still drapes like fabric, but becomes firm and weather resistant, so you can make sculptural pieces with the flow and texture of fabric. As with all things in life, there are a few little rules that you need to follow to get great results. Fabric hardener is water-based, and so it will freeze. Therefore, it must be stored above 5 degrees centigrade. And it must also be mixed well before each use, with a good shake of the bottle. My children are growing up watching me cut up their clothes. Material selection is key. Natural fibres work best. The hardener needs to soak into the fabric. If a fabric is too synthetic, then the hardener will sit on the surface and not become an integral part of the artwork. It's a great way to recycle old clothes. And my family never know what their clothes are going to be turned into next. And while we're on the subject of natural fibre, don't ever run your fingers through your hair whilst you're working, or you'll end up looking like you were styled by Edward Scissorhands. Can you imagine? The properties of the fabric hardener are that it is environmentally friendly and non-toxic. So there's no nasty chemicals, and you can, it makes for an easy clean-up of your brushes and your hands with warm, soapy water. Pouring out little and often is key. Because of the air-drying properties of the fabric hardener, you cannot pour any unused product back into the bottle. Finding the right texture for your project can be quite fun. Different fabrics will give different textures. And so for me, it's all about the enjoyment of mixing things up a bit. And applying colour is little and often. Build it up slowly, a bit at a time, and layering colour can give some interesting effects. I always mix powder pigment with a little bit of varnish, wipe the excess off my brush before dry brushing the colour onto the surface of the sculptures. Finally, just add creativity, which can come from anywhere. For me, it's about the texture. And nature and the coast are recurring themes through both my 2D and my 3D art. My studio is full of interesting bits of recycled textiles, natural fibres, and found objects that all have specific textures, weaves, and surface detailing. Sometimes the inspiration can come from a specific texture. Other times, an idea will form in my head, and then it's about the challenge of finding the just right texture to incorporate into the artistic process. I recall on one occasion having the idea of creating a dragon sculpture, but I couldn't find that just right texture to make the dragon scales. So the idea stayed in my head for several years in various forms, until one day I was in a charity shop in the town centre, and a macrame bag proved to be the perfect solution. Dragon scales! Did I really say that out loud? I took my new find home and set to work, building a basic framework, adding form, sculpting the head and the body, and then adding the macrame bag using the fabric hardener. Finishing with some powder pigments to add colour to define the fine detailing of the texture, my seedling idea of a dragon sculpture finally came to fruition. But textile sculpture is just the start. Mix the fabric hardener with various powders and your creative possibilities explode. Air drying clay, crackle pastes, stone effects, and mixed media art are all there to be explored. Inspiration can come in all forms and from all sources. But I'm not creative, I hear you say. I believe there's creativity in everyone. We all think, we all have ideas. In that respect, my previous career as an engineer is not so different from my role as an artist. Why should one person be more creative than another? It's simply about joining the dots one step at a time from initial idea to end project. And this theory is borne out time and time again with the creations that my students take home at the end of a workshop after taking their first tentative steps into textile sculpture. Sometimes it's the little things in life that can make the biggest difference. That chance encounter that leads you on a new career path. The little tricks of the trade that can make all the difference to the end result. Looking at the world from a slightly different angle. As the great Pablo Picasso once said, "Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist."